It would be an understatement to say that Democratic voters feel a sense of disappointment with the Biden administration. Poll after poll has shown his approval rating taking a hit across the board. But the latest polls on where black voters stand and which party they identify with might be more cause of concern for Democrats. The latest Quinnipiac poll reveals that despite Biden winning 87% of the black vote in the presidential election, his approval rating among black voters has now fallen to 57%, down from 78% last April. Black voters' approval ratings of congressional Democrats has also plummeted to 57%, down from 70% last April. And what might be even starker shift in the latest polls laying out which party Americans say they most identify with. According to Gallup, although most Americans said they identified with the Democratic Party at the start of 2021, by the end of last year, those numbers flipped, with more Americans saying they now identify with the Republican Party. When it comes to black voters, they too are moving slightly to the right. For the first half of last year, 11% said they identified with the Republican Party. But by the second half of 2021, that number rose to 16%. And the numbers that said they identified with Democrats fell slightly. Joining me now to discuss is the chair of Religious Studies of the Religious Studies Department at the University of Pennsylvania, Anthea Butler. So, Anthea, what do you make of these polls that show both black people seeming to not have kind of cooling off on the Biden administration, but also congressional Democrats, and shifting a bit away from even identifying with the Democratic Party?
You know, what I make with it is several things. One is Democrats' messaging is really bad. Number two, the lack of enthusiasm for African Americans right now, especially younger African Americans, 18 to 35 years of age, is going to be a grave problem in the 2022 elections. And then finally, this is a referendum on what Biden has done for African Americans. Everybody else seems to be able to get something out of Biden except black people. And my question is when is he going to deliver to his most loyal base? And I don't see it right now. And so I can understand why these numbers are falling for him.
So I can understand on the one side the disappointment aspect of the Biden administration, where people just say, I'm just not happy with what's happening. And a lot of that is fueled by frustration over COVID. COVID has dragged on and on and on. And even though Biden thought that he could get his arms around it, it's just that the thing keeps moving, keeps changing, keeps mutating. It's a very difficult situation. And I actually kind of, take my hat off to anybody trying to deal with that, including this administration. It's just a hard thing to deal with. What I was having a harder time with was the shift towards affiliation with Republicans among black people, because that's not just, I'm just disappointed in you. That is an affirmative act. That is saying, not only am I disappointed in you, I may not vote in your favor and sit home. No, I actually like what I'm seeing on the right. And what I see on the right is not something that I, as a black person, like very much. What do you make of those numbers and that switch?
I think that switch is about something that's really basic. And I want to talk about something anecdotal here. I've had, opportunities to be in Ubers and Lyfts with black men who are driving. And unsolicited, they have said to me, I need Donald Trump to come back. I need my stimmy. I need my money. I was doing better under Trump. And so there's a sense in which people were really thinking about, we don't get a check anymore. We haven't gotten a stimulus check. The pandemic is still going on. We have not, all the child care credit has gone away. They see Trump as somebody who actually signed a check and gave them money. Now, you and I both know that he's not really down for us. But the fact of the matter is that under the Biden administration, less has happened for African Americans in terms of finances and in terms of help during this pandemic than happened at the end of the Trump administration. And so I think there is a huge problem right now. And I think the other part of this is something that we don't like to own up to, and at least politically, but I think religiously we can. African Americans are not that liberal in certain respects. And so when you start to think about people who are talking about, God's with this guy as opposed to the other person, and that maybe God is not blessing us anymore because we're having all these problems, then I think this becomes a very big issue for the Biden administration to figure out. And then finally, I want to close with this. I think the amount of snark that has been coming out of this administration is a problematic. When you have the press secretary saying, "Well, we don't need to give out, COVID tests," and then she has to backtrack because they got to give COVID tests out, or you have a vice president who says, "Can you just look it up on Google?" That is not attentive to the populations that you are supposed to be serving. And I think that's a real problem for Biden, the vice president, and for everybody else in this administration who thinks that this is going to be a cakewalk for them in November of 2022.
It was interesting you started with anecdotes about black men in particular. We were not able to get racial and sex breakdown from Gallup. A lot of times, as you know, they don't poll
Yeah.
enough people to give you a reliable sample when you keep cutting it down smaller and smaller and smaller. But, this idea of men being more attracted to Trump than women is something that is a established fact. And there is something about, I want you to talk about this idea of like machismo as an allure, that it is aspirational to be able to buck the system and to be, as I heard, you said your anecdote. I had one that I was in the gym, and this was actually in Brooklyn, and there were three men working out together. Two of them were white, one was black, and the two white men were saying, "Oh, I voted for Trump. He's a gangster." And the black guy was trying to say, I don't think he's problematic, but he didn't walk away. He kept continuing to work out with them. So I think there was just something about him, the Scarface effect. He's
No,
so
exactly.
bad, and and that they're attracted to that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a very serious problem, actually, for the Democrats because people look at Trump. I mean, Trump was appearing in rap music before he ever became president, before he ever thought about anything. People associate him with his, television show, and they still see him the same way. The fact that two white men called him gangster, he gets away with things, and there seems to be no consequence. And I think for a lot of people, especially for men, that is something that is very alluring to them. And then also, we have to put in the fact that he delivers for his base. And I think this is crucial. I think what Democrats don't understand is that they are not delivering for their base. And Trump, as a Republican, delivers for his base. He gave them judges, he gave them money, he gave them everything they wanted and needed. He made them feel safe. And I think that the people who are looking at Trump right now going, well, maybe this is not so bad. Maybe I can be a Republican. They look at a party that can deliver for them, that is powerful, that is not afraid to push back on people, and doesn't care about the niceties. And I think that's really attractive to, unfortunately, to a lot of our population right now that is tired of getting pushed around.
Let's cast to the future a little bit. We're expecting, hopefully this doesn't happen, but the expectation is that the voting rights bills will fail this week. How do black
Yes.
voters and black activists operate in a world post the failure of these two voting rights bills?
This is going to be very difficult. I mean, I cannot stress this enough. Between the failure of these bills this week and the gerrymandering in states, there has to be some strategic thinking about where can Democrats get gains in the 2022 election cycle? Where should they put money behind candidates? And I think most importantly, and this is really a big one because this is about infighting, I think Democrats who are moderates and to the right need to stop picking on people who are in the left in the Democratic Party. It is very clear that there have been a lot of leftist candidates on the local level who have won. And they've won for reasons because they have provided some concrete solutions to the things that people are facing right now. What the Democratic Party needs to really understand is that they are not going to be able to cash in on African American women, African American men, and a younger population to come in to vote if they've got to stand in line for 10 to 12 hours, only to find out that they're going to have their vote contested and everything else. We don't see enough fight from the Democratic leadership right now. The fact that Biden just went to Georgia last week, I mean, basically waited a whole year until he decided to show up and start talking about voting rights after everything else that has happened this year is just absolutely ridiculous. And I call them to account about it. And I think that it is a miss of this administration. And that is why his presidency is going to fail if he doesn't bring it together really fast and figure out that he needs African Americans in order to win, to get people to hold the House and the Senate, and then to do whatever it is he thinks he's going to do in 2024.
Anthea Butler, thank you for joining me again tonight. A pleasure as
You're welcome.
always.